So this week we are talking about cooking on Camino. Do I cook a lot on Camino? Not exactly, but we're going to be talking about how to do cooking on the Camino and some of the gear you might want to take along. So coming right up. So personally, I don't do a lot of cooking on the Camino, but I probably will do a little bit next time. I'll explain a bit more about that, but lots of people do. Why would you want to consider cooking on Camino? Well, there's two big reasons, I think. One is that it saves a great deal of money, so if you're on a fairly tight budget, cooking your own food will help significantly on that. People also like to cook communal meals with other people they meet along the way, and that can be a lot of fun, really rewarding. And of course, as we spoke about recently on the channel, a lot of people have particular dietary needs, and cooking for themselves can help with that a lot. So what I thought I'd do is to talk not so much about, we're not going to talk about recipes, but talk about the sorts of gear that you might want to take along with you if you're considering cooking on the Camino. And I'll show you the stuff that I have considered taking, and I'll show you at the end exactly what I'm taking on my next Camino with Pat and why we're taking that particular gear. Okay, so let's start in its very simplest form. And something that is really popular, I know, amongst Camino pilgrim circles is these, the good old electric coil. I've carried this once. The reason I carried it was on Pat's first Camino, she was very concerned about the food. If you don't know, she's from Southeast Asia. She's used to eating lots of rice, not really into potatoes and fries and things like that. And we thought, as a bit of a backup, we can at least boil eggs. And we used this twice, I think. So how do you use these? This is quite a heavy one, but you generally want a little cup to use with them. Obviously make sure that it's heat proof and all the rest of it. And we have literally cooked eggs in this. Just, keep an eye on it, obviously, as the eggs are boiling. One tip if you're using coils as well is that, let me make sure I get this right, unplug it from the power before you take it out of the water, otherwise you blow the whatever, not good. So put it in the water, plug it in, and when you're finished, unplug it before you take it out of the water, because they just overheat otherwise. But look, I know these are really popular, and people use them a lot. There's a whole sort of subculture of people, pilgrim coil people, who love taking these. Particularly they use them for making coffee in the morning in albergues and things like that. I'm not that desperate for coffee in the morning. I'll have some water or something. But look, that's one of the simplest ways of cooking, obviously for making hot drinks, but you could do soups, you could warm up noodles. It's quite heavy though. I forget the exact weight. So I'll put the weights of everything down below. And being a non-commercial channel, you're not going to find Amazon links for all of this stuff either. But I will weigh all these items and put them down below just so you get an idea. So a coil is the simplest thing if you're just making coffee or soups or something like that. Before someone asks, I should also add, what are the cooking facilities like on the various Camino routes? If you jump onto the Gronza website, and I keep plugging the Gronza website, but I'll put a link down below, it actually shows you all the different sort of accommodations, most of them on the different Camino routes. And if you look at a particular accommodation type, in an albergue, it'll tell you if it has cooking facilities or not. Don't take it as gospel, as in anything on the Camino. You may turn up, of course, and it says it had cooking facilities, and it doesn't. Maybe the cooker broke down, or you're expecting a microwave and there isn't. So be flexible. Always be flexible. But it's a handy thing to look at. And a word of warning: in Galicia, as you get closer to Santiago, the word. Have I stayed in any municipal albergues in Galicia? I'm sure I have. But the sort of word on the street, if you like, has been for many years that whilst they have really well-equipped kitchens, they don't have any equipment in them. Apparently, people were knocking off all the equipment. So, if you want to cook in an albergue, particularly in Galicia, you might want to bring along some very simple cooking gear, and I'll show you in a moment what you might want to consider. all of the albergues sort of further back from Santiago, on the Invierno, on the Via de la Plata, places like that, most of those had cooking equipment. But on our next Camino, I'm waffling too much. Let me show you some of the gear and then I'll explain. What else might you want to take along? A knife if you're preparing food. I found one of the lightest possible Swiss Army knives. It has a pretty good blade that I've sharpened up. It, most importantly, has a corkscrew. Those screw top wines in Spain, well, not many anyway. Does it have a tin opener? Yeah, it does. It's got a tiny little sort of bottle opener thing. I found the lightest one possible. That is enough, you know, to chop up vegetables and things. So a sharp knife is handy if you're going to be cooking. In terms of utensils, I go ultralight on everything. So I'm a bit of an ultralight freak. Sporks are handy. So this is a titanium spork, weighs about 14 grams, I think. So it's a little spoon, it's a fork. I can eat most things with that. You get different varieties of these. This is a little plastic one. So on our next Camino, we're going to take one of each. We're going to take a little metal one and a plastic one, because I love to have flexibility in things. So if I'm cooking, for example, I might want to use the plastic one to be stirring food. So it just gives me an option. Here's another style. I've never used this one. It's got a fork on one end and a sort of a spoon on the other. So there's all different types that you can get. So some sort of eating implement. You know, you don't need to take a knife, fork and a spoon. Just take a spork. What about cooking equipment? So having said that there may not be any in the albergues in Galicia. Now, I haven't tried this, so I've got a question for you. If you have used titanium cooking pots, do they work on electric hobs? What do you call those, induction hobs? I've researched it and apparently they should. We have gas here at home, but I'm told they should work on electric induction hobs. So if you've tried them, let me know. So these are ultra light. This is about, I'll put the weights down below. These are Toaks. This weighs about 80 grams. This is one of the larger ones. So obviously I can use that on a cooktop. One pot meals, you know, very easy. It's ultra light. You know, if I was packing this, I'd be packing socks in it or something like that. It's really not going to add too much weight or volume to my pack. Yeah, there's an even smaller one down here. What are we going to take on the next Camino? A slightly bigger one. What does this one weigh? I'm curious now. Let me grab the box. This is 159 grams, this one. Pat likes the idea of this one because it has a little frying pan on the top. This is all ultralight gear again. Tiny little frying pan, so we could fry eggs or something in the morning. And it's got, you know, a very decent sized pot where we could cook rice, we could do all sorts of things. Why are we going to take this? Because our next Camino is probably going to be the Camino Madrid. It's a little bit more remote. Some of the albergues are not that well equipped. I'm not dead set sure we're going to take this, but because there's two of us, we can spread the weight a little bit. But this would allow us to, you know, cook meals for two quite easily. Yeah, I'm hesitant because of the size and the weight. 159 grams, you know, all adds up. And you have to ask yourself how many times you're going to use it. So we tend to eat out most of the time. We're only carrying cooking stuff for the occasion when, you know, maybe we can't get dinner in a bar, or, you know, we can't get breakfast. We like to have some breakfast before we get going, and it gives us an option to cook. But, you know, so I'm balancing up in the back of my mind, if we're only going to use this 2 or 3 times, is it worth carrying? Probably not, but we'll see. So this sort of thing is an option. I actually asked online for people's thoughts on whether it was worth, on my previous Camino, if you were going to take a cooking pot of some sort, would you take a metal one to use on a stovetop, or would you use some sort of microwave pot? And the overriding response was a microwave pot is probably going to be more practical, because more albergues will have microwaves than will have cooktops. And there's a certain logic to that. Again, because there's 2 of us walking, and if we really want to be cooking, we might take one of each, just to give us an option. This thing I found in the local supermarket. It's made by Decor. No commercial links down below, sorry. I forget the weight of it. I'll put the weight down below, but it was amazingly light. I think it's about 60 grams, and you know, it's a microwave pot. You know, it's plenty big enough that we could almost cook something for 2 people in that, but we could whack it through the microwave a couple of times. And the other reason for perhaps carrying 2 pots is that, you know, whatever we're cooking, this gives us 2 things to eat out of. So, you know, as with all of your Camino gear, always think about multiple use items, multi-purpose use. So, you know, I can cook in this, I can drink with it, I could carry food in it. You want to avoid, I think, carrying things that really only have one purpose. So, you know, coming back to this simple example with the spork, you know, I can eat all manner of things with that, and I can use it as a stirring implement for cooking. You know, don't double up on gear. What else have I got? I think that's about it, actually. So there we go, just some thoughts on cooking stuff that you might want to take. Ultimately, why would you bother cooking on the Camino? To save cost, absolutely. Maybe because you like the sort of communal element of shopping with other pilgrims and cooking a meal together. You know, maybe you have particular dietary needs, all, you know, perfectly valid reasons to be doing your own cooking. Check on Gronza to see if the places you're staying have cooking facilities. But then I would say think seriously about whether you actually want to carry cooking stuff, because other than in Galicia, most of the albergues should have something. You know, if I had to whittle this down to one item to take for cooking, I think it would be a microwave pot. That's probably because most places will have a microwave. And look, at the end of the day, I can eat a cold meal. You know, I mean, that's the other thing. You don't have to cook. You can go to stores and things along the way and buy food that's perfectly okay to assemble and eat cold. So if I was going to take one item to cook in, it would probably be the microwave pot. I always carry a spork because I can eat yogurts and all kinds of things with that. And I always carry my little knife so I can chop up fruit and veggies and things like that. You might be thinking, how do you get that through security in the airport, Rob? Totally other topic, but when I'm travelling, I do check in a mailing tube. And so I carry my pack on board the plane. I check in a mailing tube. That goes in the mailing tube along with my poles, liquids, you know, anything else. I kind of pack the tube just to reduce the weight a little bit, taking it on my carry-on into the plane. So there we go, some thoughts on cooking on the Camino. Why not comment down below? Do you cook on the Camino? Why do you do that? Is it for budget, for dietary needs, because you like to? What are some of the challenges you've had? You know, do share that, because it will help people who are considering the idea. What tips have you got? What would you take? Would you take a microwave dish or a microwave pot or a stovetop pot? Would you take something else? Are you one of the Coil brigade? Do you like to take a Coil? Yeah, it's just, this weighs more than that, you know. But for making coffees and stuff, yeah, I get it. Just one tip, buy one with a European plug on it. I've got them taped on an adapter there, it just adds to the weight. Buy one online with a Euro plug. There we go, that's enough. Rob has waffled. Anything you want to share about cooking on the Camino, please do down below. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Bye for now.